he had the Senate and the House by an extraordinarily thin majority, but he did still have both the Senate and the House for the first 2 years of his presidency, which, when you have that, it is your responsibility as the leader of the party, as president, to lead your platform through. Those dissenters, it is your responsibility to whip them in line. And he didn't do that. He didn't even try to push for a large number of these things that he's mentioning. And for those that he did, when there was an ounce of dissent, he just immediately waved the white flag. So, grading the Joe Biden presidency. So we're going to make a tier list of Joe Biden and the different categories of policy. So I think we got a big square here, right? Big rectangle. I'm going to put the bottom two tiers, make them much bigger than the top for reasons that'll probably become apparent soon. And we'll just like, you know, and then it's just like, and then it's like, yeah, they're perfect. So let's talk about the elephant in the room first, the thing we've already ranted about today during today's stream, his foreign policy. Before we give him a final grade, I will create a timeline, a line graph of the Biden foreign policy, okay? So we got time, we have is good, okay? So, starting out very neutral because he just came in, right? What decisions is he gonna make? Okay. We have his Ukraine policy. Very supportive of Ukraine over time. Staying out of a direct engagement, however, giving money to an ally in the name of defense rather than offense, while simultaneously hurting an enemy in the form of Russia. Okay? However, along the way, we have October 7th, 2023, which is going to be right here. Okay? Israel is attacked by Hamas. A couple hours pass. We're waiting to see the American response, but we all know what it's going to be. And then we kind of fall off a cliff. Over an extended period of time, our Ukraine policy doesn't change and remains decent. However, each new instance of Israeli war crimes with our support, with our dollars, just causes this infinite loop of downward spiral. He says he's negotiating a ceasefire in May of 2023. It doesn't happen in May of 2023. So we continue on this pattern. Now we have a ceasefire that looks like it's going to happen. So that is Joe Biden's foreign policy over time. Okay? It looks like sharks in the water. That is unintentional. Unfortunately, it's hard to give him anything other than a final grade of evil. Foreign. FP is in F tier. F for evil. Okay? That's what we got there. You can't see that. Whatever. I'll put it over here. If we want to get more specific, like I can maybe box this off. Okay? The genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. That's not intentional. Go pick. That's an F. His Ukraine policy, I'd put higher. I'd actually put up here. Ukraine. Bam. His domestic policy and his breaching of all of his campaign promises. I'm actually going to put healthcare. I'm actually going to put healthcare in F tier. Okay? This might be controversial, but because he did allow for Medicare to negotiate drug prices, he did put a cap on insulin. That's really good. He didn't even try to fight for his premier campaign promise, which was public option healthcare. If he at least pretended to try, I would put this higher, but it's the easiest example of a Joe Biden lie that you can point out right now. So for that reason, it goes into F. I can put that in a box because it's a bit more of an overall issue. I can put insulin at A, okay? It would be S if it were free. It's not, but it is a good cap. I'll put Medicare negotiations in D because that kind of took place of the actual Medicare for all that could have come from this. COVID response, that's in the healthcare umbrella. That's really hard. That's really tricky. He did have a vaccine dispersal plan, which is better than we can say for Trump, but he did not do a good job of actually getting those vaccines into people's arms at combating the misinformation. He attempted a very light mandate adjacent tactic and did not stick by his guns whatsoever. So I'm going to put COVID in the D tier. Not nearly as bad as Trump's COVID policy. That would be an F easily, but still not great. Trans issues, trans rights. Switching topic now. We'll have the LGBTQ umbrella, I guess. Pretty milquetoast. LGBTQ. Pretty milquetoast, not gonna lie. However, he was a more vocal, not trans ally exactly, but vocal advocate for trans rights than any president before him. He did not push for legislation that protected trans people over time, but was rhetorically, at the very least, an ally. For that, I'm going to put that in the D tier. Okay. What else do we got? Climate change. His climate change response. He touted in his farewell speech that we just got done watching how he passed the largest climate change bill in the world. And this is true. And it's also a pathetically small amount of money and resources devoted to climate change still. That's going in the C tier. He did something that I didn't think he would do, to be honest, but he did something. It's nowhere near enough, though. Infrastructure. That gets a B. One of the less talked about issues, because it's not fun to talk about infrastructure and roads and bridges and shit. But very, very important. He passed a very substantive bill for it. And in the case of this bill specifically, I think the concessions he made were unfortunately necessary because he passed it during the latter 2 years of his presidency after the midterms, I think, right? Am I getting that wrong? Hold on, let me fact check myself. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. No, it passed in 2021. I'm way off. However, he did not want to do anything with the filibuster. So it was a self-imposed limitation. For that reason, I'm going to take it out of this tier. This is the most efficient way to do this. And instead put it in the C tier. An unnecessary concession. What else we got? We got his overall defense of democracy against fascism. That's F. He would consistently talk about these existential threats to democracy. He himself is the product of a failed insurrection attempt against him. Because it failed, he got to be in office. He was the guy that all that was based around. And he didn't do jack shit in response to it. He allowed the Supreme Court to remain as it was when he came into office. He did not combat against the filibuster whatsoever to attempt to pass anything genuinely positive or to pass anything that could lessen the viability of fascists or dictators or evil politicians or moneyed interests from taking power. He warned about all of this and didn't do shit about it, which to me is worse than just not saying shit about it when it comes to this issue specifically. What else? Immigration. Immigration is an F. Immigration is a massive F. Basically identical to Donald Trump's first term. Less rhetorically terribly racist, but virtually unchanged. Title 42 was allowed to expire based on its own natural terms. However, that's about it. Of course, he had his vice president very early into his presidency, despite positive, progressive immigration reform also being a prime campaign promise of his. Very early into his term, he had his vice president speak at the border, hey, prospective immigrants, do not come. Do not come. Hold on, I got this.
Do not come. Do not come.
Imagine trying to tell.
Fun to meme, but we're talking about human beings and a search out of desperation for liberation from violence. So, yeah. Do not come. F is what else? Economy. Economy. That is an enormous umbrella. Overall economy, I'm actually going to put in B. As an umbrella, I'm putting it in B. In the wake of COVID, we were always going to experience a unpredictable economy, to say the very least, and inflation was a major part of that. And he did a genuinely, in terms of if your goal is to maintain a capitalistic economy that benefits the wealthy over the many, if your job is to do that, but you still want to get inflation under control, then Joe Biden did a virtually perfect job. I don't think those are the goals that you should have. I'm a communist, but if you are a capitalist who seeks to maintain capitalism while also tackling inflation, he did a good job. In terms of other economic factors, then we can get into a little bit more of a, wishy-washy, controversial, talks. Jobs. We got jobs for days, baby. We got so many jobs. We had a worker shortage crisis, dude. Actually, that's besides the point, but we got jobs. We got so many jobs we can't freaking staff them all. Some of them are in industries we haven't had for a hot minute as well. We got jobs. Welcome to America. We got jobs. Wealth inequality. He didn't do shit. That's kind of in the same sphere as here, like rhetorically in favor of, well, he's not even in favor of wealth redistribution. He just wants increased taxes. I'm just going to put that in F for wealth. Saying you want to increase taxes is not enough. And then also not really doing it. That's not enough. Police reform, didn't say about that. Talked about it on the campaign trail. Hard to not during the apex of the protests in the wake of George Floyd. But didn't say about it after being elected. A similar category is healthcare. Once he was elected, he shut right the hell up. Student debt. That's a tricky one. He did forgive more student debt than any other president before him. However, what he promised, what his initial plans were, and what we ended up getting are all very different things. And of course, what we ended up getting was not saying a watered down version is unfair in and of itself. It's too congratulatory in and of itself. What we ended up getting was virtually nothing. Still more than we've gotten before because the bar for presidents is really freaking low, but nowhere near what we were promised. And when he initially attempted to do his plan of 10K forgiveness for all public borrowers, 20K for all public borrowers who are Pell Grant recipients, the Supreme Court said, I don't know. And then he immediately waved the white flag, like anything and everything. I'm gonna put it in C tier. This is kind of the tier of he did something. He actually technically did something, is kind of what this tier is. Even though it's virtually nothing, he still did something. That's this tier. Okay. What other issues we want to grade? I guess I should add student to this. Debt can mean a lot of things. We still have jobs. At least. Ooh, abortion is a huge one. I forgot about abortion. He didn't fight back against the Supreme Court's ruling. And that's a popular one. That is a Democratic Party mainstay. Abortion, Roe v. Wade. So the fact that he didn't put up a fight against it is pretty damning. Did he do anything? I don't think he really did. Rhetorically on the right side, but didn't do jack. That's a D tier. Do we have any other big ones before I give a final grade of D minus probably? Actually, maybe just regular D or D plus. I give Obama a D minus. We got anything else? We did climate change. We did foreign policy. Afghanistan. That's another S. Afghanistan. We got out of there. That's his number one S. That's the best thing any president has done my entire life. I'm not exaggerating. The Afghanistan withdrawal. That's not something I expected him to do at all, but he did it. Of course, people like to, cry wolf about there was so much catastrophe as it happened, and of course the country itself now is in a dire state. Just further proof that American occupation didn't do jack for as long as we were there. But we're out now. We're out now. Thank God. Thank our Lord and Savior Joe. That's a big one. Can't believe I forgot that one. I guess we could talk about guns. Yeah, he did do something, but not enough. That's a C tier. That's a C tier. Okay. So grading Biden, the best things he did as president. He created jobs. We just circle that a few more times. And the best thing he did, that's why it's in the upper left portion, he withdrew from Afghanistan. The best things that Joe Biden did in his presidency. The next best thing, capping the price on insulin. This could have been made cheaper. This could have been made free. It wasn't, but it is capped at a significantly lower price than it was previously made available. The third best thing he did. Moving on from that, we have the economy as a whole. The way that he managed inflation was probably about as good as you could get while maintaining a capitalist system. His Ukraine policy was also about as good as you could get, seeing as how any direct American intervention, even from purely altruistic perspectives, would inevitably be a disaster. Good Ukraine response. Things that he did do but didn't do enough of: infrastructure, LGBTQ issues, addressing climate change, providing student debt, and gun reform. He did things in all of these categories, though of course not enough. And that is why they are in C tier. D tier. This is reserved for mainly things he is only rhetorically good on, that he didn't actually do shit about, such as overall Medicare reform, his COVID response, his trans rights advocacy, his pro-choice stances. All are issues he is rhetorically on the right side of, but didn't do shit about during his time in office. And then finally, we have the awful things, the things that he will probably be remembered and hated for the most, rightfully so, because these are tragedies of failure. From right to left is kind of in the direction of most to least severe. Police didn't do shit after he was elected. Police brutality remains a consistent threat throughout the country. When a person kills a black person or a Black Lives Matter protester, in a couple of instances, Joe Biden didn't say about the unfair outcomes of their ongoing prosecutions. I'm talking about Kyle Rittenhouse and Daniel Penny. These people were allowed to get away with murder by our law enforcement system on purely racist grounds, and Biden, of course, didn't say or do shit. Wealth redistribution. Of course, he is beholden by the same interests as his Republican colleagues, as the incoming administration. He is a neoliberal capitalist. Of course, he is not in favor of wealth redistribution. Ergo, he didn't do shit to accomplish this. Immigration. Basically, the exact same thing as Trump's first term. He didn't do shit except allow Title 42 to expire, which required not the lifting of a finger on his part. Virtually the exact same, regardless of what Republicans like to say. To see more, check out my previous video on the matter. Democracy. He is in a unique position to represent the overall health of democracy because he is the guy that Trump tried to violently take democratically elected power from. And he didn't do shit about it. He's warning us about it all the time, but it's in F tier instead of D tier because he uniquely symbolizes this issue and yet still didn't do shit about it when he had 4 years to do so. Healthcare, another issue. One of his most prime issues on the campaign trail 4 years ago. Shut up about it instantly. I don't think he's used the word public option or single payer since he's been elected. An absolute abandonment of his voters and his supporters. And then finally, we have the bad two. These are the ones that he is going to be known for forever. FP stands for Foreign Policy, which is, basically just the umbrella version of this acronym. The genocide of Palestinians in Gaza is what that stands for. I'll go ahead and erase that and actually write. Yes, this is his legacy. This is his legacy. I think he knows it. I think pretty much every political ally of his knows it. I think those in his administration know it. What else is there to say about it? This guy aided and abetted and funded and directly provided the means of genocide to an ethno-nationalist, theocratic project for 15 months. And is just now, at the very end of his term, touting the ceasefire as his own success, despite absolutely refusing to not directly contribute to it over this period of time. We see through the lies nowadays. We see through it, and this is his legacy. Oh, there's another one I forgot. TikTok. The TikTok ban. Whatever. F. Final grade D. In comparison, so that's the Biden grade. Okay, Biden D. In comparison to previous presidents, my Obama grade is D minus. My Trump grade is F. If you want to go further than that, George W. is F. We got Bill Clinton up in here. We got freaking Bill Clinton, F. We got Daddy George, D minus. We got my boy JC, D plus. Okay, and there's your like modern era of presidents. I think I got the order wrong, but that's okay. So, hey, in comparison, the best president since Jimmy Carter, that sounds good until you look at this disgusting monstrosity that I've created. Anywho, that was kind of fun.